All right. So, I think when you're thinking about compartmentalization and you're thinking about, how do I go all in and connect the dots while also being able to, do multiple things, including, how do I multitask? I believe multitasking is something that is possible if you train yourself and you work hard at it. I did close to 250 live Google Hangout interviews that were associated with a Twitter chat that allowed me to train myself to interview somebody, listen to their answers while monitoring a Twitter feed, engaging, and then bringing those people's questions in. I was really bad at it to start. I got better at it. It now allows me to do something that I wanted to share about here. And it's a question I'm getting a lot lately is, what impact does live streaming or live video of my podcast actually have on my podcast numbers? How do I think they relate? And here's the thing. Podcasting is the most intimate, I think, of all of the media platforms. They're in your ear. It's a consistency platform where every Tuesday, if you're watching or you're listening to Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee Dumas, it's every day. It's this relationship you have with someone's voice and their passion and their love and their fluctuation. And I think because podcasting is that personalized conversation. Like once you have someone as a subscriber, oftentimes if you, the podcaster, just keeps delivering consistency, you can keep people for a subscriber for life. And live video is that same intimacy if you use it correctly, if you're human about it, if you bring people on the journey. Just live streaming your podcast, you sitting in front of a Skype, that's not exciting, that's not valuable. But if you bring people along on the journey, or on my shows, I do a pre-show before we actually hit record where I talk about, hey, this is what you guys can look forward to in the episode. I engage some of the people, and then after the show, I also engage with them. But remember, I also have this segment where you don't get all of my content on the live feed. You have to go download the podcast to get the last 5 minutes, which for me is kind of getting people over to the podcast to download it, also hopefully subscribe. But I think one of the hardest things in podcasting is there is no real search. There's no way for me, like even if you're writing blogs about it, it's hard to reach new audiences or inspire new people to like or use a podcast or join a podcast unless their friends are listening to podcasts or unless they know people that swear by podcasts. And so for me, live video ends up being that place, that home, that network for me to reach a new audience, get them so motivated and inspired. And I tell people, like, I'm on every channel. I'm everywhere. I believe in the power of live video. I'm also blogging. I'm also, writing. I'm also a speaker. I also host another podcast. I have a lot of things going on. But I always tell them, if you want to stay up to date and really have one consistent place, go to my podcast. My FOMO Fans podcast is the place for you to get consistent content every single week. You're going to get, you're going to know what you're going to get. It's not going to be very long. It's not going to be drawn out. You don't have to filter through all of my tweets or all of the feed. And it's because I personalize and care so much, and I compartmentalize so much to provide you as podcast listeners the most valuable possible. And I also want to do that with live video, which is why I do an after show and ask people what they thought about the topic. I have people on Instagram Live that are suggesting future topics. I've also went live on live video to give people access to my podcast setup, because if you think about it, podcasting is weird in the sense that it's been around for a long time. But up until like the last 2 years, it was really hard to create a podcast. And it's still, the average podcast still dies after, 7 episodes? I don't think the average podcaster get to 7 episodes. And my good friend Michael O'Neill, the host of Solopreneur Hour podcast, he actually said that he believes every podcaster should commit to doing 2 years worth of episodes before you see like that true community growth, or before you start really trying to take it to the next level, because it's such a long term game. And Michael does a great job of using live video as well. And Pat Flynn, who of course has the Passive Income podcast as well as like 50 other podcasts, is one of the coolest guys I know. Pat Flynn also does his Ask Pat Flynn Fridays. He's been doing that using Facebook Live and doing live video to bring people into his room, into his work, so you can actually see what his setup is. Because here's what I believe, and this is kind of how I'll leave you with it for this episode, is I believe just like podcasting, people want to know who you are. They want to know what you're about. They want to know that you care, but they also want some kind of exclusivity, right? And being part of a community, people do crave exclusivity, but exclusivity does require access in many places. Access to who you are, access to your time, access to what you have going on. And I believe live video, quote me on this, is the perfect complement to podcasting. And if done right, can transform existing podcasts and future podcasts to not only reach new audiences, but to convince or to educate people that aren't podcast listeners yet the power of podcasting. Because like I talked about multitasking and compartmentalization, I listen to about 17 podcasts a week, and I love those, and I don't consume much video content, although I create about 10 hours a week, because I can multitask and I can compartmentalize. When I'm listening to a podcast, it can be while I'm driving or flying or I'm in the waiting room, places where I'm not going to read a blog and places where I'm not going to watch a video. And I think part of that also comes down to it is, how do I connect? How do I consume and learn while still doing my business? I don't think there's a better platform, a better place to learn and to multitask with and consume than podcasting. I'm a big believer in it, but I'm also a big believer in it that podcasters have sucked at using social to build a community, and they can make up for that if they embrace the power of live video. You don't believe me? Check out facebook.com/iSocialFans or periscope.tv/iSocialFans. Tons of my episodes up there for my podcast. My download numbers and the growth of this podcast are way beyond my wildest imagination. I didn't start live streaming my other podcast until well after episode 50. I started with episode 0 of this one, live streaming it, and I believe the results, the numbers, the growth have so much to do with the power of live video. I hope you guys enjoy the live video elements I bring. If you're not a fan of live video, I hope you enjoy the audio that you still get to consume, even though I do broadcast these live on live video. My name is Brian Fanzo, better known as iSocialFans. You've been listening to FOMO Fans, episode number 19. I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Go do some compartmentalization. And remember, if you haven't jumped on live video, my number one advice, press the damn button.